My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Categories Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.categories.com, and our special guest tonight is Christopher Knight from the Los Angeles-based Metallica tribute band Damage Inc. How are you doing tonight, Chris?
Great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
And I've interviewed you before in the past, but for anybody that hasn't heard that, I wanted to interview you tonight, kind of find out about what it's like to play in a Metallica tribute, and being that last week just was the 34th anniversary of Cliff Burton's passing, I was kind of wondering if we could start off with you sharing with us, what's the story as far as how you became a Metallica fan?
Well, I actually came in post-Cliff. I got into Metallica in '88. I actually was
interesting.
kind of more of the hits sort of guy, and into like the K-Rock stuff. And my buddy was a big metalhead, and he would we'd take cruises, and he'd be playing Metallica. And one day he popped in Fade to Black, and I just picked up a guitar that year. I was just starting to learn how to play guitar. And I'm like, I heard that acoustic intro that they have in that song.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, wait, hold that back. Let me hear that again. And this was old enough to where it was a cassette, so we actually had to rewind it.
Okay, yeah.
But I listened to that song, and then I'm like, well, I want to hear some more from this band. So I actually, went back into the library a little bit. Obviously the first one that really kind of gripped me was a Cliff song, back in the Cliff era, but I, admittedly late to the game when it comes to becoming a Metallica fan here.
Yeah, that's kind of like me. I mean, I kind of got into Metallica, I'll say right around Master Puppets, when they got on that big Aussie tour, like a lot of people. And like you, a lot of people say, Metallica sold out like when they did the Black album, but I'm a fan of what they did with that, and they kind of broke out in a little bit of a more huge way, but gotta love Metallica for what. So that's kind of interesting. Now, so did you start out? Would you say mostly as a guitar player, and you kind of fell into singing, or?
No, I would definitely say singing's always come natural to me. I was singing as a kid.
Wow.
We used to take the family trips. We were like the Flanders on The Simpsons. Singing in the car and stuff.
Wow.
I was in choir in junior high, and did that whole thing. I taught myself how to play guitar, and typically whenever we're doing the Metallica stuff. That part is more challenging for me than the singing. The singing just kind of comes naturally. I do it all day, hum to myself, I'm singing in the shower, in the car. But the guitar playing takes a little bit more work for me.
And talk about the guitar playing, because I know a lot of people, like, as far as a rhythm guitar player, they cite James Hetfield as an influence. They say, he's a real smooth rhythm player. Talk a little bit about having to learn those guitar tracks, those guitar parts for what you do with Damage Inc.
It's really challenging sometimes. Sometimes it comes naturally. I mean, I when I was just starting to play, I fell into the Fade to Black, so my natural inclination was just trying to duplicate that sort of song, and so that's kind of what sort of set me down the path of doing that. I'm like, hey, well, what's next? Let's try this one. And so just kind of picking up maybe some of the lower hanging fruit, so to speak, maybe some of the easier
stuff to do,
riffs to play, maybe, like For Whom the Bell Tolls or something. And then as you start picking up more challenging songs, it takes a little bit longer, and in fact, right now we're in our downtime with all the COVID stuff going on. We haven't had as many shows this summer, so we've kind of been cracking on the Black Album stuff, because that's getting ready to celebrate its 30th anniversary next year.
Yeah, so. Talk about milestones, huh? Now, now I was curious. Before getting involved with Damage Inc., I'm assuming, like a lot of guys, you tried the original music thing.
You know what? A little bit. I never really found. I didn't get into playing into a band until I already had kind of a library of Metallica stuff under my belt.
Yeah.
So I kind of noodled around with some riffs and stuff, but it never. I wouldn't say that I wasn't inspired to do it. I just never really kind of stuck with that path. I was always looking for the challenge of duplicating the next song, or hey, let's delve into some Megadeth or Pantera. It's once I started going down the metal path, there was no shortage of songs to try and play and pick up. So
I hear you. Now let me ask you.
I never really kind of branched out much into the original stuff.
Now let me ask you. talk about getting involved with Damage Inc. Now, is that a project? Was that an existing project that you joined? Did you form the band with some of your friends, or what's the story there?
So it was kind of an existing band. My brother was in the military, and before he left, I was really big into guitar, but just playing myself.
Yeah.
So it had only been about 3 or 4 years since I've been playing, and he would kind of sit. He was in high school band, so he would sit down and play the tuba to the bass parts while I'm playing on the guitar. Well, he goes to the military and actually winds up picking up bass, and so when he comes back, he's like, "Hey, I kind of got together with some other military guys, and we formed a band, and they were just doing covers, it was just some sort of fun thing." So we started off doing that, and then as things sort of progressed, we had a couple of member changes, and then sort of decided, well, why don't we just stick with one band? We actually had some friends that we were doing the cover thing still. And this band, Masters of Reality, great friends of ours, they're a Black Sabbath tribute, and we got to see them play the House of Blues one night. Wow. We're like, I want to do this. So we're like, why don't we, instead of focusing on a bunch of different songs, why don't we just play to our strength, because I naturally was drawn to Metallica. They were my favorite band, and I'm like, well, let's give this a shot. So we did that for about I don't know, 5 or 6 years before we had a couple of changes. Our original guitar player, Dave, who's my brother's roommate currently, he decided to kind of step down. He had some, his wife had some health issues, and so, he kind of had to take a step away from the band. And then our original drummer, Boyd, who's also still a buddy of ours and kind of hangs around, he had teenage kids, and when you play in a band, it kind of eats up your weekend time. So he kind of stepped away too. So with our current lineup with Chris Brightwell on guitar and Tone DeCord on drums, we've been playing together now for a little over 10 years.
Wow, talk about a milestone there. Now, were you surprised when you guys formed Damage Inc. and seeing the success you started having with it after a while? Because, a lot of people are out there, I don't really think they have a true idea of what you guys do, because a lot of people say, guys that play in tribute bands or cover bands, their fellow musicians can't make it doing their, but I like to call it rock and roll theater, because especially if you go see a band like Damage Inc., you're not just going to get like 4 guys in their jeans and t-shirts. You get guys that play the songs, almost like the band does, and then, dress the part. I mean, if anybody has been on your Facebook page, you look as close as James Hetfield as you possibly can,
Yeah, he's got some different facial hair changes and stuff that I have a hard time keeping up with. But I just kind of lucked out in that department, I suppose. But I agree with you. I mean, there is in some people's minds, there is sort of a stigma when it comes to tribute bands or cover bands or whatever. And, I guess an argument could be made that, hey, you're not, if you want to consider a real musician somebody that creates his own stuff, then, and that's your argument, then fair enough.
Well, like I said, I consider it rock and roll theater. I'll tell you why, because if you get a band that's, like Damage Inc., and you guys are that good at what you do, and you're dressing the part, you're playing the songs almost note for note, I mean, you could take a person back to like, like in your case, when they heard Fade to Black on the radio for the very first time, very first Metallica concert they went to, if the band is that good. And that's what I enjoy going to a lot of the tribute shows,
Well, thanks. And I'll tell you, that's probably one of the most common conversation lines that we have with people. Is it's like, man, you guys you made me think back to this concert in, 92, or, so we get the same thing out of it. It's so great to connect with other Metallica fans in that way, kind of be able to bring those same sort of feelings or memories out in the music. It's really an awesome feeling for us to do that. I kind of consider ourselves performers. Like you said, musical theater, I think that's pretty accurate. We're just like a symphony isn't the ones that maybe wrote the Beethoven piece. They're performing the pieces or duplicating the pieces that was written, So it's more of a performance sort of thing, and I think we enjoy the performance aspect of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I was curious, when you first started doing this 10 years ago, when it first started taking off, were you at all surprised to see that it's like, in some cases, it's much easier to get a tribute band going than if you were to try to get your own original thing going?
Well, I think one of the benefits a tribute band has, if you're tributing a popular band already, is there's a fan base out there that knows the music versus somebody, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for somebody who's working on their own stuff and trying to put that out there. But it is a lot more difficult. I mean, you have to capture people and start spreading word of mouth and, trying to get gigs. A lot of promoters don't want to take a chance on you. So, I mean, they have a real struggle to be able to be successful. So we are certainly fortunate when it comes to, kind of already having an existing fan base. But then again, you're up against, the album and the music that they've learned and loved over the years. So you have to bring your game that night.
And see, that's why, that's why, like, Damage Inc., for example, the fact that you guys have been around 10 years, doing at least 10 years, you wouldn't still be around if you didn't do a good job of what you're trying to do, pay tribute to Metallica. I mean, because like you said, the fans are so diehard. If you were doing a, shitty job, they'd let you know, hey, no, man, you guys are nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be ducking rotten fruit and stuff on the beer bottles and stuff. But I think it's kind of awesome. I've seen it happen sometimes where you get maybe somebody that was dragged to the show, I don't want to see a tribute band, and he's kind of skeptical. And as the night progresses, you can see him kind of nodding his head a little bit.
I'm into this.
Next thing you know, he's throwing the horns up. So it's it's just an experience. You go out, you have fun, you enjoy the music, and we get to kind of enjoy it all together.
I think that's what it's all about, is having fun, especially in this day and age with the COVID and everything being locked down. And like you said, bands aren't able to go out there right now. That's what we need, is live entertainment.
It's really been a tough year for that, I'll tell you. I mean, we've done some streaming stuff, and while it's nice to be able to get out and play for people, I gotta say, at least from the musician standpoint, it's not the same. I mean, we really feel when we play that there's a connection with the audience, and that's really one of the things that's missing. I mean, the closeness. You see these photos of like the House of Blues show or the Orange County Fair, and it's just packed to the gills with people that are all having a good time, and that's kind of taboo right now. So I can't wait to fast forward to the end of this chapter and get back into playing these shows.
Yeah, that's what I heard from many performers. They say, like, you do these internet shows that are streaming, like you're saying, and you're playing like to an empty room, and so people watching it looks like a cool event. But for guys up on stage, it's like you don't even have the roar of a crowd to kind of feed off.
Yeah, I mean, you almost want to get one of those 1980s TV applause tracks or something. Fill the room with some sort of noise afterwards. It is a little awkward to do. But again, if that's what we got, that's what we got.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but I thought I saw you guys have a performance coming up sometime at the Gas Lamp in Long Beach. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're working. Our dates are kind of tentative right now. Every place is still in the process of reopening and kind of having some different rules and regulations. So we're trying to do our best to keep everybody posted as things progress. But tentatively, I think that is what we're currently scheduled for right now.
Because the reason I asked is I live right down the street from that place, and I went to this event the other day. It was simply just they had a movie night, like in the parking lot. They had big movie screens, and people could come out. And it's a cool thing for people to be able to go out and get some form of entertainment. And I've seen the same place where they've been having these concerts where, tell me if this is what you guys are planning. You guys are going to be like playing inside the club, and then you're going to be broadcasting. People are going to be watching from outside, like on the big screen.
Yeah, we actually did a show at the Gas Lamp in that very same format probably a couple of months ago now. I get a little fuzzy on the dates.
That might be what I'm thinking about, because I seen an ad up on Facebook recently. That might be what it was for. Yeah.
We did one a little bit ago, and again, it's great to be able to do that. I think we've all been cooped up in our houses, and and not seeing anybody else. So any sort of interaction is better than that. But
and us,
I really am longing for the days of getting back into the where we can all kind of congregate in one place and share a drink and bump fists and scream Metallica lyrics at the top of our lungs.
Because the only thing I'll say is what I dig about something like that is, it's not ideally what you want, but it's a creative way to still be able to get out there for bands to, do their thing, or people to go watch their favorite bands, Because the governor here in California, I seen him recently on TV saying, I don't know if I'm ever going to allow, as long as I'm the governor here, live concert events or movie theaters to open. I'm like, man, what's going on there? You know?
Yeah,
what
the fun police. You know, it's like, and you know what? It's I think these venues like the Gas Lamp are doing the absolute best that they can, given the circumstances that they're having to deal with. I mean, it's you mean not to get political into anything? I think that you know, a lot of the rules and regulations seem arbitrary in some cases. I know there's some science behind it, but you know, it's really difficult for them to try and make a living and for them to kind of evolve with the situation. And I think a lot of these places have really done an admirable job.
Yeah, that's what I dig about it. You know,
to do that.
Yeah, that's what I dig about it. You know, you're trying to get creative. You're trying to find a way to do that. You know, to get people out there and for the bands to try to make a living. You know,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that we just, kind of case in point, we just went this past Friday out to the Orange County Fairgrounds where they had a parking lot show where everybody drove. It was kind of like a drive-in where you drove up to the thing, you know, and instead of clapping, everybody honked their horns when the song was done. So you know, there's just a bunch of different ways that the people are trying to get by and still kind of be able to get that musical connection they're looking for.
Oh, yeah. You know, I really dig stuff like that. And, you know, so I think it's a great way for people to get out there and do their thing and get entertained. And you guys have, you know, the only thing that sucks is like I thought these streaming things that you're talking about going online, you know, is a great way for people, the fans, to see their bands and stuff. But Facebook's seen how successful it was. I don't know if you're aware of this, Chris, but they're trying to shut that down where they're not going to allow bands to have streaming events anymore on Facebook.
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, you know, it's really, again, you know, it's kind of, it's almost like whack-a-mole. Anytime you pop up with a good idea, you know, someone's out there to try and stymie it. And I get it. It's their platform. It's their prerogative to be able to do
that.
With it what they like. But, you know, it's like if we're placed in such restrictions and we find a way to be able to still connect and get out there, it's sort of disappointing that, you know, you have somebody step in and sort of take that away from people.
Yeah. And like you said, I guess it's their right to do that. But, you know, at the same time, like another guy I interviewed recently, he was telling me that the thing with Facebook too is like the more popular your band becomes, the more they try to restrict how many people can see what you guys are doing. You know,
it can be a challenge. I mean, you know, I think I love the things about Facebook that kind of have allowed the industry to evolve where we're able to get the word out to people that you normally might not have encountered. It really beats flyer in cars in a parking lot, you know, as far as getting the word out for the show.
Yeah, remember when you were growing up and you used to go see bands, and that's how you do. You go and they have their flyers all over Hollywood Boulevard. I remember those.
Yep, stuck under the windshield or whatever, and you're like, hey, let's go check these guys out next week. Yes, I mean, there's some aspects of it that I think are great, but, you know, as anything kind of, I don't know, gets maybe a little too big, you start seeing the dollar signs, and that becomes the most important thing. It's
real, as far as Facebook, it's really great for, you know, networking, and I want to get back to Damage Inc., you know, because, like I said, you guys have been really successful, and I think part of a reason for that, and I don't know why it is, maybe you can tell me, Chris, I'm surprised, as popular as Metallica is, that there's not more Metallica tributes out here in Southern California. I mean...
Yeah, you know, when we were coming up, we actually kind of, I wouldn't say lucky, because I think that... you know, things just kind of happen or evolve the way that they do sometimes for a reason. But there was actually a really great Metallica band that was playing around here called Creeping Death.
Oh, okay.
And they were kind of really big right when we were starting off. In fact, we used to go see them play locally. And right when we kind of started playing, they had some issues. You know, some personal issues and had to kind of take a step back, and it allowed us to really kind of step in and fill a void. And you know, we, in a sense, we got lucky to be able to be in the right place at the right time to do that. As far as now, you know, I think we have some friends up in the you know, kind of the valley. Called Motor Breath, and they're also brothers, 3 brothers in that band, and they do a great tribute to Metallica. You know, there's some other ones down in San Diego. You know, you see them popping up here and there. I mean, it is surprising that there aren't more than there are, and you do see some saturation with some bands out there. You know, where it's like, hey, I want to do, you know, a Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, or you know,
that's
Iron
the thing.
Maiden or something.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. There's like half a dozen AC/DCs and then Led Zeppelin tributes. So that's the thing. Like if you're gonna do Led Zeppelin or AC/DC, you got to really be good at what you do, and you got to really have the goods, because there's a whole lot of competition. Like probably you guys know of Led Zeppelin. I talked to those guys, and they're like the premier Led Zeppelin tribute. I mean, so much to the point that Jimmy Page is aware of them, and I interviewed Swan, the singer, and he was telling me when they did that reunion show in London and they did that Celebration Day CD, they were the special guest to Led Zeppelin at that show in London, the backstage guest.
Yeah, no, those guys are amazing. And again, it's when you're bringing that sort of musicianship and showmanship, and you're really putting your passion into the music. People recognize and appreciate that. And I think those are the bands that put in that hard work. That are kind of able to be successful and be able to get those sorts of things. But those guys are great guys.
And you talk about doing it for 10 years. He was telling me, Swan, Led Zeppelin, they've been like the longest running official Led Zeppelin tribute out here in California anyways, and he was saying the band itself has been together for 30 years, and he's not even the original singer, but they've gotten so much attention, very much like the Iron Maidens, I'm sure you've heard of. And see, they got a special thing going, because I mean, it's one thing to pay tribute to Iron Maiden, but an all-female tribute, that's a little something different. It's a little something, makes it a little more, that much more special. If anybody's ever seen the Iron Maidens, I mean, you close your eyes and you'd swear Bruce Dickinson was in the room. The singer's just that good.
No, absolutely. All of them are amazing musicians, great people too. We love playing with them. We're really good friends with them. I actually met my wife. She played in an all-female AC/DC tribute called Thunderstruck.
Oh, I've heard of them. Wow.
So I definitely understand the appeal.
Yeah.
It's really a great thing, and I honestly think that's one of the things that you really kind of need to bring to the table when you're doing something like that. Is if you've got a great band that's doing AC/DC, well, that's great. But if there's 5 other ones that are doing that too, you have to have something that kind of separates you. And I think an all-female rendition of that, it's just an amazing idea, and they are all amazing musicians.
I mean, like I used to know this guy. He was in a Kiss tribute, and they called it Co-Ed Kiss, and they had some pretty name players as far as people that play in the tribute scene out here. And they had two girls and two guys in the band. So that made it a little different than just being made up like Kiss,
Yeah, definitely. And I think those are good. I think one of the things that we're fortunate is doing the Metallica stuff doesn't require any of the makeup. So the Kiss people and everybody that has to go through that, my hat's off to them. That is dedication to the craft right there.
And so let me ask you, what's it like to play in a band with your brother? I mean, you guys like typical brothers, have a love-hate thing going, or do you get along pretty well?
You know what? We know how to push each other's buttons. So if there's going to be somebody that butts heads in the band, it's usually us. But I'll tell you what, we do everything together. So not just the band, but we before this whole COVID thing happened, we played softball. Wow. We go snowboarding. We'll go shooting. It's pretty much everything. We've been really close. We've got a close family. My entire life. So it's actually
worked out.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's cool. And you'd miss him if he wasn't there, right?
Oh, absolutely. I miss the hell out of them right now since we're not playing so much. We'd see each other 3 or 4 times a week, and now it's maybe we're lucky if we see each other once every other week. So it's kind of been a drag with this whole COVID thing going on.
Yeah, and I gotta tell people, I would say Damage Inc. is like the premier Metallica tribute out in Southern California. I say that because you guys appeared, didn't you, on that Access TV's World's Greatest Tribute more than once, right?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to do the first season, and then we came back a couple of seasons later to do it again. 2 different venues. We did the Roxy the first season, and then when they were hosting it at the Whiskey, we got to play that show too. And it was we were really fortunate to have that opportunity. Katie Darrell's awesome, and we actually got to meet a lot of bands that we normally wouldn't cross paths with. Like Queen Nation or Led Zeppelin. Or Which One's Pink, so a lot of the bands that we normally wouldn't play with, you don't typically see a Metallica paired up with that. We got to make a lot of good friendships and long-lasting friendships with that. We seem to bump into the Queen Nation guys almost every time we're flying out of here.
Yeah, but you know what's cool about that is, like, I've been to a couple of those tapings, and I dig the fact that, like you're saying, the tribute band scene, you guys are all friends, and everybody kind of, supports one another. Like, I'm sure, like, kind of like what you're saying, when Damage Inc. was, on the show down there, and you're doing your taping, like, probably maybe a guy from Queen Nation was there, and he's just there to kind of check you guys out, and vice versa. That's kind of a cool thing, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm nothing but supportive of anybody that gets up and does this. I mean, knowing it firsthand and the amount of dedication that you have to put into it. If you're a successful band, one of the caveats to that is that you travel a lot. And so it's a lot of weekends away from home. And so it's really. You kind of consider yourselves road warriors a little bit. You have a kindred or a kinship in that with these other guys, and I think we can all appreciate the musicianship and the level of effort that everybody puts into it.
And let me ask you, when you guys appeared on that TV show, like one thing I noticed in the audience when I went down a few times is like there's a camera right in front of the band and you see the red light. Are you at all aware of like, okay, we're on camera, or are you just kind of doing your thing when you're up there?
I think that maybe the first couple of minutes, once the show starts, you kind of get the game face on and you sort of get lost in the moment a little bit, or at least I do myself. The only thing that was kind of weird was, with it being a live TV show, you take commercial breaks, and so kind of setting the set list up, so it works out in that manner was a little bit challenging, especially when dealing with Metallica songs where every one is, 15 minutes long, it seems like. So, and then you also have other aspects, like the very first show we played, the very first song we played on that show on live TV, I broke my E string. Luckily I had another guitar handy, but it's like you can't cut the tape and then go back and rewind it. You just have to do it on the fly.
That's true rock and roll right there,
Totally. I knew once that was okay, that the rest of the show would be fine. Get it out of the way,
And it's just amazing, just appearing on a TV show like that, how many people see you guys and discover the band,
We've bumped into people like at the NAMM convention, or even when we're traveling on the road, that says that, hey, we saw you on Access TV, so it's great to meet you guys in person. So it was a really great opportunity that just happened to fall into our laps, and we were fortunate enough to be a part of it.
When I hear people trash like tribute bands, the best story I can come up with is, I'm sure you've heard this before, the guy from Steel Panther, the lead singer, Michael Starr, he used to go by the name of Ralph Sanaz, and out here in LA, he got started with doing the Van Halen tribute thing with the Atomic Punks. And I'm sure you know the story, but he left to join LA Guns, with Tracy Guns, and he ended up leaving LA Guns to go back to do the Atomic Punks because he was making a better living, paying tribute to David Lee Roth and Van Halen than he was in LA Guns. I mean, and then now he's kind of laughing all the way to the bank with Steel Panther. And what I dig about Steel Panther is I wouldn't even consider that a tribute act because it is original music, but they're kind of paying tribute to that era of music, and
totally.
And I dig the fact that it's original music.
Of it, just the awesomeness of it,
And so that's kind of best example that I can give people, because this guy went off to join a band that had been on MTV, established band, making more money doing the tribute thing, and now he's got Steel Panther, and it's original music. And they had a thing up recently on Facebook that people can hire Steel Panther to help to create like a customized song for the person. I mean,
that's awesome. I mean, that's a great story. I met Ralph back when he was doing the Atomic Punks thing. We've been together for 16 years with Damage Inc.
Okay.
I just said it was 10 with the most current lineup.
I hear you. Okay.
But the band's been at it for a while. But we used to play down at a club called Cane's in San Diego.
Oh wow.
And got to play a couple shows with the Punks back in the day. And they're all really great guys. Ralph's an awesome guy, super talented guy, and I don't blame him. I think that there is a market out there for people that want to come see this. It's like, hey, Metallica's not in town right now, but I can go see Damage Inc. next week.
That's the next best thing, and it might be cheaper too,
Yeah, quarter of the price.
Now I know another thing in conjunction with Access TV, when you would appear on the TV show and that. A lot of the bands started where you would like go in your case and re-record some Metallica songs, and people could purchase those tunes. Is that still available? People want to check that out?
Yeah, I think I don't recall if we were able to work that out with the company, but I know that they were doing that with a lot of the bands out there.
Oh, okay. But you guys do have a CD of like Metallica covers that you put out yourself, right?
Yeah, and that was actually just due to demand. People would ask us, "Hey, do you have any CDs?" And we're like, "No." So we're like, "Well, why don't we do that? That would be fun, you know." And then we got in contact with the licensing company to make sure that Metallica gets their pay.
Of course.
And then,
yeah.
we just put it out for people that want to hear the CDs when they're on the road.
And as far as you know, is Metallica even aware of what you guys are doing? Have you ever heard anything from them or any other people?
Nothing personally. I mean, my brother got to meet him backstage. I think back in 2005 or 6 or whatever, and gave him a bunch of swag back in the day.
Wow.
I mean, I think they're aware of a lot of tribute bands. I know that they actually reached out to one of the tribute bands that had their stuff stolen out of Canada, I think.
Wow.
And,
just think about that.
Yeah, I wound up kind of hooking them up with some gear, you know. So I think they appreciate that. I know Lars is a big fan of tribute bands.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're aware of us. If they are, great. I'd love to meet them sometime, or at least know that hey, we're flying the flag for you guys. I got back.
And I was curious. Obviously, Damage Inc. You guys named yourselves after a Metallica album, but I got to say that's actually one of my favorite albums. I love, they had a lot of like great cover tunes they did on that and rare tracks, but that's a great album. People have never checked that out. So just talk a little bit about why you guys decided to name it after that album.
You know what's funny is that it was kind of an argument. We had discussed it a little bit about different names, and we were coming up with some funky and off-the-wall things, and I thought Damage Inc. sounded cool, and I thought it would be a cool name. And at the time, we had looked, and there was, I think, 2 or 3 other bands. When you name it after a song or an album, inevitably somebody else is going to do that too. But I'm like, we're never going to play outside of California anyway.
Were you surprised? Yeah.
Little did I know. But we just did. I just thought it sounded cool. I liked that song. It was, Master of Puppets is one of my favorite albums, and I like how frantic that song is. It's got a great chug to it, and just seemed like a cool name at the time.
And where's the farthest out you guys have played? Like outside of the local area here.
We played a gig in Newfoundland 2 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago now.
Wow.
So,
what was that like?
Newfoundland, Canada. And ironically, as I was talking about Queen Nation before, they happened to be playing on the same island in a different city the same weekend we were. So,
well, that guy's following you around, huh?
We just happened to be in the same area, so we went and grabbed a bite really quick, and then went in our separate cities and played our gigs. But yeah, that's been the farthest. We played out in Mexico too. Done a couple of shows, 3 or 4 shows.
What's that like in Mexico? Because I'd imagine, there's a certain portion of the crowd that maybe doesn't speak as much good English, but they seem to get off on the music still, right?
I'll tell you, man, I don't know if there's a more diehard fan out there than the Latin metal fan. I mean, those guys, they just go crazy for metal. They love it. And, I love those people. I love people that have a passion for the music. Some of our funnest shows were down there.
And what's the hardest thing about what you do, Chris, as far as trying to portray James Hetfield? Is it playing the guitar, singing, or trying to do both at the same?
If it's a song, like I said, we're learning some of the Black Album stuff that we haven't done before. And although I know the songs, some of them, it's been a little bit, and some of them I've never played on guitar before. So when I'm first learning a song, if I don't know all the guitar parts and I'm a little fuzzy on the words, it's kind of like the rubbing your belly and patting your head kind of thing. So it can get a little awkward doing that. When it comes to the show stuff, the most difficult stuff for me is definitely the guitar playing. I'm focusing on that way more than the singing or anything. I just don't want to mess up and catch any stink eye from anybody.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, that's cool, and that's amazing. You've been doing it 16 years. 4 more years will be 20th anniversary. That's going to be a special time for Damage Inc.
It's flown by, I gotta say. I mean, in some senses, it seems like it's been forever, but it also seems like it's just been gone by in a snap.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm sure when you started this with your brother, you had no idea that you'd be still doing it 16 years, into it. I mean, and that's kind of what I was talking about. It's just amazing that it seems like a lot of tribute bands, if the musicianship is pretty good, that it's a lot more easier to do that than trying to get your own original thing going. Because, like you said, a lot of people already know the songs.
Yeah, you have a built-in fan base, and all you have to do is just make it sound like the band, and you should be good to go.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Chris, taking time to talk to me today. We'll have to do it again down the line. It's always great talking to you, but the interview should be posted maybe sometime within the next month or so. Once it goes up, I'll let you know, and you feel free to post on any of your sites. Okay?
Yeah, please do. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure.
Bye-bye. Take care.
All right, thanks.